Welcome everybody. This is HelloID webinar for the July release. Hopefully you can hear me fine. I'm Rick van der Dijssel, the product owner of HelloID. I'm just going to check if you can hear me fine. So if somebody could answer, would be nice. Yes, okay, somebody reacted. So that's good. So welcome to this HelloID release webinar. We got a lot of new features, of course. We're going through them. I already put a link for voting on what is your favorite feature in the chat. So you can select that and press on your favorite feature. Based on the highest number of votes, I will talk about that topic longer, or normally I start with that topic, but because there are a couple of features that are linked to a little bit of timing, I ordered the presentation this time. But I can talk about a little longer about a topic. So let's go to see if there are any votes in yet. Okay, so the most votes are currently for the edit data source directly from forum. Oh, it's increasing. It's good to know that you carry a lot of thought on that, so that's good. But first off, I'm going to start with the dashboard and go to some general incidents and go to the verified mail domain, because it has some timing that I want to show you in this release. So first off, I'm going to go to the dashboard, and we will go back to the voting later on, just to see what is the most important feature. So let's go to the dashboard. And as you can see, we have a new dashboard. So that's also the ticket for the redesign of the dashboard. It's mostly divided into two different types of information. So the above type is the license information. So this is the first release on that, but we're going to add some new features on that in the next couple of months. But the first thing you're going to see is the number of subscriptions you have assigned to us. So that will be the right number. So in this case, I have 500 users for access management as a subscription. And in the next release, you will see the number of subscriptions you're currently using. So in this release, it's still 0, and it's also 0 for pay-as-you-go, but we're going to introduce later on this year. But in the next release, you will see the number of subscription, and you can see if you're over your subscription or you're below your subscription. You will even get a notification if you go over your subscription, and it will be recorded as an incident. I will talk about that later. Also, you can see the history, so you can see the number that you have for your different modules. So for access management, service automation, or provisioning, you can see the usage. For access management, usage is based on the amount of users that are assigned to an application. So you can have lots of users, no problem. But if they are assigned to applications, so they're visible in the application page on the end user side, then it will count as a user. For service automation, it's almost the same. It's assigned to a product or a delegated form, but there's also a little bit of calculation in. We're going to notify you about this, how this works in more detail, of course, when we send that information. And with the provisioning, it's the entitlements that are assigned to a person. That's the number. But nothing will change for you guys. It's just a lookup, so we can see in the near future what your subscription amount is and how many you're using. And we will keep you updated if we change anything more in this system or on the license management. The second part is the incidents. So this is a new approach that we have, and that is that we want to have a space on the dashboard, because it's the dashboard of HelloID, where we can see something like we call is general incidents. So it's incidents in HelloID. So there's something wrong in HelloID. In this case, more wrong in your own portal. So there could be a system down, or an agent is not running, or an import failed for provisioning, or a task didn't finish for service automation, or we see a lot of people that cannot log in access management. So we want to increase these types of incidents, and as you can see here, you can see the open incidents. So in this case, I shut down my agent, so you can see it's not connected anymore. You can also press on the details, so you will see the agent as of HelloID 01 has not sent a request for some time and is probably unavailable. So there are also two different types of incidents. Some incidents you need to resolve as a administrator yourself, and then you will have a resolve button here. But most of them, they're automatically. So in case of the agent, it's automatically. So if the agent is up, the incident will close and you don't see it any longer. And of course, you can still see the closed incidents. So you can see here the closed incidents. But this is just a one type and not more types. And in this case, I don't have any closed incidents. But we're also reporting into our report engine, so you can see the whole history of your incidents. I will show that in a minute later on when I'm going to the report for something else. So currently, as I showed, the incident is open. And what I'm going to do in the background, you cannot see it, but I will turn on the agent. So after a while, the agent will be online and the incident will be gone. What also is good to mention is that you can set notifications based on these incidents. So if I go to the settings and go to company, and I have our advanced, I can add email addresses that I will be notified of in incidents. So in this case, I'm going to receive an email to admin@enjoy.org if my agent is down or it's up again. So this way you don't have to go to the portal each day, but you will get email notifications about the big events in HelloID. So if something is wrong, then you can check it. You don't have to go to the portal each day. So we want to improve that experience with HelloID. So just get everything through the email, or maybe in the future we're going to add multiple notifications way, something like SMS or something, WhatsApp, I don't know. But for now it's based on email. So we will send an email when there's an incident. And in the future you can also trigger on which incident types you will receive a mail address, but that will be in the future. So I'm in the background, I'm starting the agent again, and the agent will not be automatically up directly as an incident, because we register that the agent is down for 5 minutes. So when it's down for 5 minutes or longer, it will create an incident, but also when it's up for 5 minutes. So if your agent is really losing connection fast and connecting again, we will not create a big incident because sometimes it flickers or your internet connection is temporarily gone, and the agent will fix it automatically. But longer than 5 minutes, it will create an incident and we notice, okay, something is wrong. Besides the agent for the Hello Directory service, we also support incidents for the synchronization of the Google and Azure in the directory service. So this one. So this is from Azure AD to HelloID, and also the Google G Suite. So from Google G Suite to HelloID. And in the future, of course, we will support multiple incidents for different parts of the software. So also, like I mentioned, for provisioning, if something goes wrong with an action or an import, or for service automation with a task or a submission of a form, something like that, we can create incidents and we can show it. So I think this is a really strong platform that we will use more often in the future. So that's the direction we're going to. Let me go back. So I just enabled the agent, so it takes a while. So I'm going through the other stuff. The other thing I want to mention, and it's also a pretty big change, and that's the mail domain verification. Oh, sorry, I see a question, so let me go to that. So the question is, how does such an email look like, and can I go from the email directly to the relevant portal? Yeah, you can. Let me check if I can. No, sorry. I don't have a screenshot on the email today, but it will be on Docs. But there is a link to the portal, and hopefully if there is an issue with a particular task, it will redirect you to the particular task. So it goes directly to the point of the problem. And sometimes if the point isn't clear, it will go to the dashboard, so you can see the incidents, of course. Let me go back to the presentation. I don't see any other questions, so hopefully this will answer it, but I cannot show it, sorry. Another thing we have is the mail domain verification. And the mail domain verification, it's needed because if you're using a from notification, so if you want to change the from address with your own custom domain, we need to verify it by the global mail provider. And we made a big change in that as well. So currently we used SendGrid only for the European and the West US clusters. But we made a change because for the European clusters we're going to use Mailjet. And for the American cluster we're going to use SendGrid still. But that means there is going to be two different sites where we have to verify the domain. So we made this feature to do this more easily. So if you go to the settings and go to company, click correctly, and click on mail domain, you can add a new email address here. So let's say I want to add enjoy.nu, enjoy.nu to add as my from email address. Then I can click on that. And as you can see here, a validation email will be sent to admin@enjoy.nu with a code in it. And that code you need to enter in this pin code. And that means we know that admin@enjoy.nu is an email address you have registered and you can use. So the second part is, and I'm going to clear this one because the sending of an email can take a little while, so I prepared it for another domain, so we don't have to wait for that. Delete this one. So in this step I already validated my email, so I already put in the PIN code, and I'm going to the DNS settings. And the DNS settings is something we always have to do for a particular domain, and we cannot do it for you, so you have to do it in your own domain. So there will be an example how you have to put it in your domain, and you can also validate it here. So if all those validations are green, you're done and it works. Also, we made a little change to check if your mail domain is verified so you can use it. And I'm going to the next feature. Hopefully this is clear. Else please say it in the chat and I will explain it more in detail. But if we go to provisioning, we already see the application, how we can use this. So if we go to the notification in provisioning, you will see if you open the notification and you have your email address that you're added from email address. So the default is no reply at HelloID.com. So previously I had no reply at toolserver.com. You will see in a warning icon, because this means the toolserver.com isn't a verified domain in my portal. So if I go to here, I can only select HelloID.com because I only have HelloID.com as a certified domain. And for every portal, you can use HelloID.com. And if you want to have your own domain name and use a from address, you have to register it there, and then you can select your own email address here. So this way, no email addresses will be blocked by any spam or things like that, because the domain name is verified in the email server. So it's a little bit technical, but this was needed to ensure that we can email correctly and have a fast email supply for the future inside HelloID. And also the process of verifying the domain is a lot easier, because in the previous one you had to create a ticket, go to support, wait for the support guys to react, and now you can just do it on yourself in the portal, which is a lot faster. Okay, again, if something isn't clear, please do a question in the portal and I will respond on that. Sorry, in the portal, sorry, on YouTube, on the live chat. Another big feature I want to discuss. Okay, so the added data source is still the number one requested feature, but I'm going to do the dependency and account and permission flow first, because then I will do a couple of things from service automation at once. So for provisioning, we created a new flow inside the entitlement enforcement. And it's a bit difficult to show you that, so I created some images where I can explain it more easily. Because it's a lot on depending and doing a lot of stuff automatically for you guys, so it will be easier for you. And I'm also going to show you how it works and how you can see that it works. But what we have, if you have an onboarding process, normally you will have a create account, update account, an update of the permissions or grant of permissions, and an enable account. And this is the correct order, of course. But we didn't force this order earlier in the software. So if you had a update account and a update permissions, the update account wasn't any sooner than the update permissions. So the update account, update permissions, and enable account were fired at once. In parallel. The only thing we had was the dependency between a create account and an update account, that you need an created account to do an update account or update permissions or an enable of account. So what we did here is we changed the flow in the order, and we have two different flows in that. And the first one is in just a single run, or in 24 hours, I have to say. And in the 24 hours, it will say, okay, the create account will go before the update account. The update account will go before the update permissions, and the update permissions will go before the enable account. So this is the flow that will execute tasks in a single run within 24 hours. After the 24 hours, we will close all the open actions that you have, and we will try it again. And the different flow is a critical flow, And that means that if you just want to do a update account, update permissions, or enable account, you need to have a create account. If you don't have a created account, it will not execute. And that's not on just a single flow, that's on or single run, it's on all the runs. So it will not start. Hopefully that's a little bit clear. I know the process should be clear because this is the default process, of course, but now we're enforcing it inside the enforcement. It's the same thing with the offboarding. So with the offboarding, we're going to revoke permissions and then go to the disable account and then go to the delete account as an order. But here's a bigger change that we also introduce is we say, okay, to delete account, all the permissions need to be revoked and the account should be or must be disabled. Else we're not going to delete account. And we did this because it is possible to say in the AD account, in the Active Directory system, to disable the delete account flag. So your account wasn't deleted. But our software said, okay, we did something in parallel. We just fired all the actions at once. And then if the delete account was before the disable and the revoke permissions, when we start to revoke permissions and the disable account, we already said, okay, the entitlement for the account is gone, so we don't have to fire them because there's no account anymore. So the account in the target system for Active Directory was never disabled or the permissions wasn't revoked. So this is the reason why we say, okay, the revoke permissions and the disable account must be removed or revoked before we're going to delete an account. I'm going to take it a little step further and make it a little bit more complex, because there's also the situation where you have multiple systems, where you have the depends on system. You're using data of a different system. So in this case, we have a system A and a system B, and the system B is dependent on the system A. So it needs information from system A to create an account, to update an account, or to do anything. So we changed this as well because we built the same flow also in the dependencies. So that means if we have the create account or the account is created in system A, only then if it's created in system A, we can create an account in system B. Also, we can only do an update account, of course, if there is a system, an account in system A. And for B, it's only a created account in system B, but because in system B, we only create an account if there's an account in system A. We can say with the update account in system B, there need to be an account in system A and system B. But also we have an ordering in the update. So the update of this system A in a single run will be before an update account in system B. So that means if you're retrieving some information or updating some attributes, you can safely use that attributes in the system B update, because we know that system A is updated before B. And this is with all the actions. So if it's in a single run, it will always give the priority on the system A actions before it goes to the system B actions. And this way we're ensuring that you will have the correct information for system B because it's the updated information for system A. This is also the same for the offboarding, of course. So it's still system A and system B order. So that's a lot of talk and a lot of explaining. So hopefully you guys get it a little bit. But we also made some adjustment in the entitlement overview to see much easier why something is pending or waiting on something. So I'm going to show you that. So what I did is I created two systems. a webinar July system A and a webinar July system B. So first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a business rule, and I already created one with the demo webinar July with just a single person, which is me, so we can see it more easily. And if we go to the entitlements and assign an entitlement from system A, so in this case I'm going to assign account access. And what should happen is, because I only assign access and not the account, I would see a pending, and it will not assign the account access, just as previously, which we had in the previous version of this release. So now if it tries to set the account access for me. But if I go into the entitlements, you will see, okay, it's waiting on the pending grant. But now the big change is I can hover on this and I can see why it's waiting. So in this case, it's waiting for a granted account for the system. So I can know, oh, I forgot to add the account in the rule. So I'm adding the account in the same rule, and it will go. So if I'm going back to the demo webinar July, and I'm going to add the account, publish it, and enforce it. Go back to the entitlements. It's still independent grant yet, but it will go. It should go, or I made a mistake, but I don't think so. I think I made a mistake, maybe the wrong system. Sorry, my mistake. I needed, of course, the webinar July system account and not the one of HelloID. Yeah, there's one, there's create. So now it should automatically go into the granted state. Maybe it can take sometimes a while before yeah, there it is. So it was scheduled and it moved to the granted. So I can do the same with the other way around. So if I'm going to lose the account, it should not do that because I still have the account access. So I should not delete an account if I still have account access to it. So if I'm going through the rules and I'm going to remove my account entitlement and publish it, it should hold and not enforce. It's still trying to do the action, of course, so it's still going to try to delete the account. But our system says, okay, I'm pending the revoke of the account. Why? I still need to revoke the account access or revoke the permissions. So I can just easily see for Recondisal, the account access is still granted, so it needs to be revoked before the account is revoked. So this way you can just easily see if something is pending, what it is pending on. And it's also the same thing with multiple systems. So let's remove system A and the entitlements. Let's do it a little bit quickly. So now the disable is run, so now it's just waiting for the account, but this will run in a minute. And in the meantime, I'm going to show I had a two systems. So I had a target A and a target B. And what I did is in B, I configured it if it's dependent on A. So what I can do here is if I create a rule, again, I'm using the same rule and I'm going to add the account. Or no, let's do the account. Yeah, let's do account access. Really fancy. So let's go do account access for B. it should say, in my opinion, okay, I'm waiting for an account in B. That's the first reason. And the other one is I'm waiting for an account in system A. So let's check if it's going to say that. So now it's trying to do an enable for system B. And if I'm going to look at the entitlement, I see, okay, it's still pending grant. And here you can see it's waiting for a granted account for the same system, so system B, and it's waiting for the granted and update account of the dependent systems. So I know because I just configured it, it's system A. So in this way you can just easily see where it's pending on over multiple systems, and also the ordering is largely improved, so you don't have any troubles with the update system or anything else. Sorry, it's a little bit complex because I cannot show you a lot of different things in the software, because it's more in the back end, the ordering, of course. But this helps us with a lot of issues regarding the ordering of the grant and revoke. So we do a lot of things automatically for you guys, so it's easier to configure it, and even if you make a mistake in the configuration, you just see what the mistake is based on this information. Let's go to the edit data source directly, so the one you voted the most on. And what we have here is, if we go to the admin portal and we go to the forms, and let's pick one randomly. So let's go to this one, first one. I will have a table here with a data source. And if I go to this one and change it, we have a new option here, data source. And it's only enabled when you use data source. So if I do this, I don't know why it isn't reacting. Yeah, I don't know why it wasn't. So if we go to the data source, we can directly configure the data source. In this case, we have a PowerShell data source. I can go directly inside the PowerShell script. I can change it, execute it, change the model definition, or do whatever. And I can just press save, and I'm back inside the form field. So you don't have to jump between the data source option in the link in the menu and back and forth. The only thing I have to mention that because of this, we also create a data source automatically when you create a new field. So if you adding a drop down as example and just go to here, and I'm selecting use data source, it says okay, the data source configuration is missing, so I can go to the data source, give it a name. So for this case it's test, something like that. And I want to have PowerShell because that's the newest and easiest one. I can put in my input keys just as normal, and I can determine my PowerShell script. So you don't have to go to your self-service data sources, create the data source first, then go to form, then go add a drop down and select the data source that you just created earlier. You don't have to do that. The only drawback or difference is that we have a vision that if you created the delegated form, we can do everything inside the delegated form. And you will see that in the next release, we're going to have some improvements on that. But that means that we're not going for the reusability that we currently have, because we see that it's a lot more easier to configure a data source directly as this and maintain it over a couple of years than reusing the data sources. But what we want to do is reusing the forms. So we're going to improve in our vision in the next couple of months the ability to clone forms and to import export and things like that. So in our vision, in the next couple of releases, we're going to have a possibility in the delegated form to create the whole delegated form just from a single model wizard. So you don't have to have different tabs open in your browser to create a data source, to create a form, and create a delegated form and link them all together. But you can just do this in one UI, which is a lot easier to do. And it's also more friendly to have in the future for maintenance. If you have any questions about this vision, you can contact me. But that's currently our vision, and we're working on that. So this is really neat because I can create a data source really fast. I don't have to switch again. And as I'm saying, we're going to add more stuff to it, so you don't have to switch and you can just easily create a form. And of course clone forms and things like that. On the other side, we also changed something on the end user side. So if we go to the end user, it's a small change, and go to service desk, but it was a lot of requested based on the, I think it's also based on the previous webinar, but we widened the view of the service desk form. So in the previous version it was a lot smaller, but now it's a little bit wider, so you use more of your screen to enter the data. So it's better looking, and that was of course the redesign, but now it's a little bit wider, so it's easier to put in the data. Another thing we added is in the report section. Let's go to that. So in the report section, we added the delegated form submission, which I think is really nice to have, because here I can see what users and what forms we did a submission on. So we can see what are the biggest user. So in this case, it's the administrator, which is the most used forms. We can see that over time. And even if we can look into the specs, so in this case, let's see, we only want to show AD account show details. So let's click on this, apply the filter, and then I have fewer options here, but I can click it open. I can also see what my data was inside the grid. So I did this, I checked for, in this case myself, with my admin account, I checked for Rick van der Dijssel to see what his AD account details were. I can see it here. So you can see all the submissions with the form data in it. So that's really good for auditing, because we can see, I don't know, if you're going to add a group membership, you can see it here when it happened and when the submission took place. And we can also drill down, of course, to a single day or to different forms, or and of course you can use the data to create your own reports as well in the report management. So I think that's really nice. Also, I mentioned earlier that the general incidents, so there's also a report available for the general incidents. So you can see that here. And here you can see when my agent was down and was working, and things like that. So that's really easy to see if you want to see the previous previous incidents and to check the audit logging. And I think in the future we will use this data to check if there are a lot of problems with a particular agent or something like that, so we can notify you guys that something is missing or going wrong. Another thing I want to show you is the incident, because I just started the agent, of course. And as you can see, the incident is gone. And I've received an email. I cannot show you guys that, sorry, but I received an email that the incident was resolved. I think there is a question. How long will this data be kept in the reporting system? Currently, we have a retention period for 1 year. So that's a pretty long time, I think. Maybe we can increase this in the future, but we have to check because we're still adding data and there is a limit of data we have in our system. But it's really big, and but currently it's 1 year. Also, if you want to keep the data longer, you can download the data, of course, using the API we mentioned in the last webinar. So in the July release, we have an API to get all the data from the reporting system. And I know, and I think I also talked about this, there is something like a Power BI plugin, so you can get all the data and use it in Power BI. I think this is it. I think I told all functions, so if there are no questions. Oops. Sorry then, if there are no questions, I would like to thank you for this, for listening to this webinar, and of course also thank you for the questions. If you still have any questions, you can do that on the YouTube video here below. We will answer on that. But of course, you can also contact support or our forum.helloid.com. You can also put in the questions there. I think the forum is easy, is faster for an answer than YouTube, but we will also respond on the YouTube. And if you want to join the next webinar, you can, of course, subscribe on the YouTube channel and hit the bell icon below. And then you will get a notification about when the webinar starts. What you also can do, we added in the release mail and also in a separate webinar mail a button where you can add the webinar to your agenda. So it's an invite. You can just press on it and it will be automatically in your Outlook agenda or any other agenda. So you will be notified when the webinar is. So thank you for listening, and till the next time. Bye.